Why can't I have what I want? Every little thing that I want, always. Why can't I have what I want today? Why must I be concise? Why must I have only just one slice of cake? Why can't I have what I want today? I can't stand it, but I can't have it any other way. Why can't I have what I want today? Why do I have to choose? Why must I suffer this abuse always? Why can't I have what I want today? Why do I have to decide? Why do I have to make up my mind or pay? Why can't I have what I want today? I'm no bragger, heard you Mick Jagger, but I want my way. Why can't I have what I want? Every little thing I want. Why can't I have what I want today?
Welcome to the Friends of Dan Music Podcast. I'm Dan Miles. You've been listening to the music of Leo Sidran. That was called Why Can't I Have What I Want? It can be found on his Mucho Leo album that he released earlier this year. In addition to his abilities as a songwriter and a vocalist, he's also a talented drummer, guitarist, keyboardist, producer, and arranger. And in addition to his own music, he's also produced albums for a number of other artists. He scored several films and composed the music for a number of national and international television commercials. And as if all that wasn't enough, he's also becoming an accomplished podcaster. So basically, when it comes to music, there's not much this guy can't do. Joining me on the phone from Brooklyn, New York, is Leo Sidran. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
I should say joining me from New York by way of Wisconsin, because we have a lot of loyal listeners up there.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I feel as much like a Wisconsinite in exile as I do like a Brooklynite.
I never knew that Wisconsinite was the proper term, so I'm already being educated right off the bat here.
Yeah, if I said that one wrong, I would really blow all my credibility as a Midwesterner. So I think I have to be careful about that stuff.
Well, we have listeners there. I have fellow podcasters there. We have past guests there. And I have a friend who just moved there by way of upstate New York. So Wisconsinite all the way. I'll go with that.
Yeah.
We're going to be touching a lot of bases. I want to start with your most recent album, Mucho Leo. We just heard a song from it called Why Can't I Have What I Want? And when I first saw that title, I was reminded of the Stone song, You Can't Always Get What You Want. So when I first heard it, I was amused to hear you name-checking Mick Jagger in there. It's like you were reading my mind. You don't strike me as a particularly selfish or greedy or gluttonous type person. So what inspired that song lyrically?
You know, I was at a point in my life and mostly in my career a handful of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, where I kept thinking, well, I want all these things to happen for myself, and I kind of want them all at the same time, and I just started, really thinking about that idea, almost like a child, like a little kid throwing themselves on the ground. Why can't I have it? I want it now. As much as that Stone song was an influence, there's another song from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory where there's a little girl who throws herself on the ground and says, "I want it now. I want it more. I want it now." It was like this recognizing the most childish tendencies that I have and just kind of calling them out. It was kind of a way to just process them. And yeah, I realized that it was kind of a reaction to that Stone song about halfway through it, which is why I name-checked Mick Jagger, because it just seemed like the only way to get through that comparison was just to own it immediately and wholeheartedly in the middle of the song.
Yeah, that's awesome because it puts it to rest. You say, I'm aware of this, I'm going to comment on it, and continue on with my song.
Exactly.
Now, I know you have a fondness for Spanish culture. Both this one and also your earlier albums contain songs in both English and Spanish. What's the appeal for you about the Latin regions of the world?
It's a really unlikely and somewhat unromantic story, at least in its origin. When I was born, my parents, my father in particular, was just totally obsessed and preoccupied with the idea that I would speak Spanish. Nobody in my family spoke Spanish, and there was no real connection to any of the culture or the language. But when I was in elementary school, I would go to after-school Spanish classes, and one thing led to another. When I got higher up in my education, when I was in middle school, I was sort of moved forward through the Spanish curriculum, and by the time I was in 8th grade, I was going to high school for Spanish, and when I was in high school, I was going to college for Spanish. So it started to become something that that became part of my identity and the kind of thing that I was proud of. And at the same time, I started spending summers in Spain. I went away on a foreign exchange summer abroad program when I was 16 and connected with the family that I stayed with, and they invited me back. I went again when I was 17, and I did a year of college there. So by the time I was in my early 20s, it was like a strong part of my identity. And then in addition to that, this is coming at that time when, as a musician and as somebody who was interested in writing songs, that I think that period in high school and in your teens, whatever you're listening to at that time, really it settles deeply under the skin. And I happened to be listening to a lot of Spanish music because I found it was really helpful to learn the language through lyrics and through songs. I think in the same way a lot of foreigners learn English by listening to the Beatles or the Stones or whatever, I found the same was true in Spanish. And so the music kind of it penetrated as well as at the same time as the language. And when I started really focusing on finding my voice as a songwriter, there was all this kind of secondary musical information that came with it from my time in Spain and listening to that music.
Is it true that you played all the instruments and sang all the vocal parts yourself on the album?
It is, yeah. I was really having a hard time getting started on this record. It had been almost a decade since I made a record under my own name. And in that time, I had moved to New York. I had worked with some other people as a producer and written songs. I got involved in writing music for a lot of TV commercials and some film scores. And I started to put all this pressure on myself to like really make something incredible. And the more time that passed, that another year would go by, and I would think, well, now I'm really setting the bar high for myself. It's not that anybody was like banging down my door, for the record.
No, it's an internal thing. It's an internal thing.
It really was internal. It was starting to get out of hand, and so I started to think, well, what can I do to put some limitations on the process so that I don't, buckle under all of this weight that I'm putting on myself. And I find in general, and I'm sure you find, and a lot of people have said this, that limitation is like a really helpful part of the process, the creative process.
Yeah, it simplifies things.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, if I could do it again, I probably would have put even more limitation on it. But it started out as a kind of an exercise. So I started doing things like recording the demos on my phone and then transferring those recordings into the computer and working from those phone demos. I also, the first and biggest limitation was, I'll just play everything, and so that should put a pretty fine point on what it can and can't be. If I can't figure out how to do it, then it won't happen.
So when you're tracking every part yourself, what's the first thing you record to start building your foundation?
I tend to start with a kind of scratch track of guitar and voice, but sometimes piano and voice on a click track.
Yeah.
And then you just have your kind of outline of the song. But then the next thing I'll do, because my first instrument was the drums, the next thing I'll do is play drums.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty that commits the track.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of people probably approach it that way. But I find that if you put the drums down, you really have the tracks are laid down.
Let me ask you this question. If someone was to ask you how much Leo is on the album, the answer would be mucho Leo. So is that where the title came from?
Yeah, also it's a pun. It's my second pun title in Spanish and in English. It's really there's probably 14 people in the world that get these jokes, but mucho Leo, if it's spelled L-I-O in Spanish, means a big mess. L-I-O is like a kind of a mess. And my name is pronounced Leo, but in Spanish my name is pronounced Leo because it's L-E-O. So if you say mucho Leo in Spain, or in Spanish, they would understand it's a big mess. But of course, when they read the title in Spanish, phonetically, it says mucho Leo, so that doesn't sound right. And in English, nobody really understands what it means. But it's a kind of a bilingual play on words.
Well, let's pause a minute and check out another sample from the album, appropriately enough. This is called Speak to Me in Spanish.
Take me back there, just one more time, to breathe in that air, to drink up that wine. Devil may care, but if it's not too much to manage, speak to me in Spanish. Speak to me in Spanish. Soft in my ear. Take your sweet time. Tú puedes decir whatever you like. Just let your tongue gently touch your palate. Speak to me in Spanish. Speak to me in Spanish. Love arrives, old heartaches vanish. Still I love the sound when you're around. Speak to me in Spanish. Say it from your soul. Háblame. Your perfect mouth, uncurling every letter. If you're from the South, girl, it's even better. I'm in your hands. You're free to take advantage. Speak to me in Spanish. Devil may care, but if it's not too much to manage, speak to me in Spanish. Háblame, speak to me in Spanish. Say it from your soul. Speak to me in Spanish. Háblame, speak to me in Spanish. En español, speak to me in Spanish. Háblame, speak to me.
So how much of a perfectionist are you? Do you try to get things down in as few takes as possible, or do you just scrutinize and agonize over everything?
I would say both. That was one of the other limitations that I placed on this record in particular, was to just let it kind of be what it was. Like the song like Speak to Me in Spanish, that's essentially the demo. And, I did it in about a day, maybe a day and a half, and then I told myself for about 6 months that I was going to, go back and touch it up and fix it and replace things. And there are a lot of kind of sketched out ideas there that I sort of figured I would, correct or improve upon. And then over time I just sort of decided that I would never get to that spirit again and to leave it. And I think in general, as a producer and somebody who works with other artists, going through the process of making your own record, even if it's just to get back in touch with what it's like as an artist to be insecure and to confront those insecurities and deal with leaving an imperfect vocal or an imperfect solo and realizing that nobody really cares. It's a good exercise, because I'm constantly telling people I work with, no, it's good, the vocal's good, it's cool, but then as soon as it's my name on the record, I start freaking out. So I think it was good to kind of have that mentality and really force myself to leave things alone.
Sometimes you hear it a certain way in your head, and you're trying to get it without realizing that what you put down is as good or better than what you're hearing in your head.
That's a big question about production in general that I think about, like what the value of a third party is, an objective listener, somebody who can say to you, it's good. I know you can't hear it right now because you're imagining something else in your head, but just, you'll come back to it and you'll hear that might not be what you thought it was going to be, but it is good.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, when Bobby McFerrin was just fooling around on Don't Worry, Be Happy, he was just screwing around on it. He was ready to move on, and his wife or someone else told him, no, that's good. You should work on that some more. It was up to him. It would have just died right there.
Yeah, that's more or less my understanding of that song, too, that it was a kind of an accident, that nobody took that seriously.
Yeah, and put some coin in his pocket later down the road.
No kidding.
Now, if someone told me they'd written a song where the lyrics in the chorus was the same word repeated 9 times, and then they told me their arrangement included double choruses, meaning the same word was going to be repeated 18 times, I'd probably assume they had a bit of a disaster on their hands. But you have managed to successfully pull that off in a song that contrasts heaviness with lightness. So how much did the lyrical concept influence your choice of bass drum and vocal register?
Oh, wow. I love that question. You're talking about light, light, light?
Yeah.
Wow. When you were setting that up, I was thinking, well, what are you talking about? What song are you talking about? In a way, I guess I don't even think of that as being a single word chorus, although it totally is. I think the vocal concept was definitely influenced by the lyric. The idea that the thing rises and rises and rises almost out of your body and into the sky because the line is just light, light, light.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the great thing about that word is that it means different things. I mean, it means literally levity and lightness and sort of altitude, and it also means relaxing, into your life, and it also means illumination.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about the kick drum and that pattern, it's kind of funny, actually. It's sort of a tribute to my friend Jorge Drexler, who I've worked with, who's from Uruguay, and it's a rhythm that I learned from him. It's actually essentially the same rhythm that we used on this song that we did for the Motorcycle Diaries. That was like my most successful song, a song that sort of changed my life in a lot of ways. And so when I was putting the song together in the studio, I thought, for some reason, to reference that. But the funny thing is, I played it for Jorge later on, and I said, hey, man, I hope you don't mind. I stole this idea from you. And he didn't hear it that way at all. He didn't even understand the reference. He didn't perceive it in that way at all. But I think in some ways that song, now that I'm thinking about it, was a look at where I want to go, and the whole record really is a look at my life and a reaction to my life in certain ways, and trying to sort of settle into who I am and what the future is going to hold for me, and just relax and let it happen. And there was something kind of sentimental and also a little nostalgic about sort of giving a musical nod to somebody who had influenced me so much and had such an impact on my life.
Of course, we all carry around our own personal psychological burdens even though Paul McCartney once advised us not to carry the world upon our shoulders, or at least
Yeah.
he advised Julian Lennon, anyways. So discovering ways of unburdening yourself is a nice, positive sentiment and a smart usage of the inherent power of suggestion that comes with all songwriting. So let's pause and check that one out. Here's one of my favorite tracks on Mucho Leo. This is called Light, Light, Light.
Take whatever might weigh you down. Take whatever might pull you low. Take whatever might keep you bound. Take it all and then let it go. Light, 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 light. Light, 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 light. Take whatever you had in mind. Take whatever you tried to say. Take whatever you had designed. Take it all and give it away. Light, 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 light. Take whatever you're holding in. Take whatever keeps you from peace. Take whatever you're carrying. Take it all in and then release. Light, 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 light. Light, 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 light. Light, 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 light. Light, 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 light.
So now let's contrast the lyrical minimalism of that song with some far wordier content from your previous album, Bohemia. In this one, you use financial terms for your lyrical motif, sort of a mashup of the business world and the creative world, art meeting commerce. It's called Living on the Interest. I don't know if I'd be willing to subject myself to the task of having to remember all those words. Have you ever performed that one live?
You know, I did as a younger man. I did record it live, perform it live, and I would like to perform it live again because the groove is so ferocious and so fun to play.
Well, clearly on this one, other people were involved, at least vocally, because I'm hearing a female voice in there. So is this considered Manos Leo?
Manos Leo, yeah, I like it. Manos Leo. Well, that's exactly where I was coming from on the previous record, and that was a decade ago. I was still in the Midwest. I was living in Madison, Wisconsin still, and it was my idea to do a record that would kind of include everybody I could get my hands on, and all of the people who, some of them were influential for me and mentors for me, and others were people that I dug. But believe it or not, the backing vocal on that song is, her name at the time was Holly Brooke, and today her name is Skylar Gray, and she's this like pop, hip-hop singer-songwriter. She wrote a hit with Eminem called "I Love the Way You Lie." She's worked on a number of big pop songs in the last few years, and she, at the time, was living in Mazomanie, Wisconsin, which is where she grew up, and she would come down to the jam sessions in Madison and sit in and sing jazz standards. And so I asked her if she would sing the hook on that song, and then there's a second male voice also, backing vocal by Freddie Johnston, who's a wonderful singer-songwriter who was also putting in time in Madison at that time. So, I mean, anybody that I could get my hands on to work on that record with me, I brought them in.
So there was less Leo, hence my suggestion for the title.
Menos Leo, exactly.
Yeah, you know, it's cool. Like, it is funky, and there's horns, and it does sound like I won't say it's the work of a younger guy, because, you know, we can write anything at any time. But, you know, there's like a scratchiness to the lead vocal and a cleanness to the chorus. So, you know, as they say, you know, talking about music is like dancing about architecture. So
yeah.
let's just pause and let people hear what we're describing from his 2003 Bohemia album. Here's my guest, Leo Sidran, talking about Living on the Interest.
I won't get up, I keep hitting snooze. Can't find my watch, can't find my shoes. Up all night cause I sleep all day. My mama told me lay off that booze. Shafted, drafted, cashed in, laughed at, baffled, bound. My soul's been grafted, lifted, sifted, sold out, hipster, wholesale lover. I'm a soul man drifter. Ain't no cop out, flop out, drop out. Gotta go out, gonna score some glee. Took my backpack to hell and back, and along the way I got my degree. I choke up, soak up, smoke up, loco, broke up town. I'm a broke down folkster, baby. Got no style, but I'm all smiles when I'm on TV.
Living on the interest.
I get a rash when I got no cash.
Living on the interest.
I'm dumbfounded when I'm not compounded.
Living on the interest.
I don't bleed, I got too much greed.
Living on the interest.
What's that in the woods? They're burning books. I wear micro, lycra, Lego, psycho, Inca, shrink wrapped, all imported glasses. I see stars everywhere I go. It's a slow-mo, pomo, cosmo, mondo, chat room, condo, until the market crashes. Hell, even my lunch is made in Mexico. It's a VP, VD, PC, IV, CEO, ADD, scuzzy life. You get a little better with every new letter. Got a lipo, typo, tucked in, sucked out, plastic, blast out, passed out, fur-lined white. And she screams, we make love, living on the interest. I get a rash when I got no cash. I'm dumbfounded when I'm not compounded. I don't bleed, I got too much greed. What's that in the woods? They're burning books. Well, it's say flip out, trip out, ship out, tiptoe, peep show, zip drive, all about lip service. And you can cash your chips to a bunch of crooks. Have your fun on, run on, wine on, sign online. Hey, it's so great, nobody looks.
What's that in the woods?
They're burning books.